Open channel.
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you're able to get at us, see the show, or just listen, participate to your level of satisfaction. I think that's the key thing there, which is a fancy way of saying, if it works for you, keep doing it. As we have some people already chiming in over there, Mondo Monconda on the Twitch stream with the howdy, James Holmes with the peace, or, okay, I know that's the way it is most of these days, but also V for victory, just saying that's one that I've known of previously. But otherwise, there's a lot of stuff going on, and of course, that we're going to be doing today. It's Friday, y'all. We've made it through another very long and tumultuous week in its own right. Technically a short one here for the show, but it wasn't an easy road getting here. Let's just put it that way. In any case, that means that Friday is in full effect, and as you all are contemplating the weekend, or at very least what you're going to do in the coming days when hopefully you don't have work, and we are definitely going to be doing what we do on Fridays, which is doing Free for All Friday, which means we're taking y'all's phone calls, comments, everything, and like James Holmes, peace to all, clarifying there. I mean, it's an older way, I know, but I think it's sometimes considered a swear across the pond, given the Vickies. I've heard that phrase before, never been subject to it, so maybe I'm misinterpreting. Also, Ross Ledger with the starting the weekend early, it looks like, if I'm looking at the emoji there, right, with the frothy beer glass, at the very least, it's the way it comes across on my screen over here. Again, whatever works for you, and particularly if you want to be able to call into the show. So, I've mentioned this before. We have a lot of kind of in place but not written down rules kind of things, because it usually doesn't come up enough for us to have taken the time to just write it down. So with the phone calls, and just because it came up a few times today already, just to be clear on that, yes, some of the phone lines may technically be open, as in they are able to receive calls even before we get on air. I'm just going to try to forestall an arms race here, because I can imagine at some point in the future someone tries to call like an hour before the show to get on. We've said this before, so staying consistent with that, 5 minutes. So 4:55, if anyone is just really chomping at the bit, really wanting to get something off their chest, or just really delve into Free for All Friday, that's the time when the phone lines will become available, or we'll start answering the calls on it anyway, and get into the show. Because again, we're taking all the comments, calls, all the subjects we can. It's been a busy damn week, and there's been a lot of things that have been brought up here, and a lot of things that we didn't even necessarily even get to going on in and around the country. So if y'all want to, this is the time to do it. As we also have John Browson, though I think his comment got cut off, so I'll give him a chance to fix that one before I put it up on screen. So let's dive right into it. And we have, starting us off this week, we do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. Okay. This is something that is tearing my heart apart.
Okay.
And some facts that most of the American people are not hearing and don't want to hear about the Ukrainian war.
Okay.
War is not statistics or pictures on TV of a few people killed or injured from a missile or drone attack. War is one man in the trenches trying to kill another man, both covered in blood and mud, a person with a bullet in his gut crying out for his mom. It's not just statistics, but data from AI, which is used to determine which strategy can be used to kill more people. War is about death and destruction. I ask you, is our proxy war through Ukraine with Russia truly designed to save the Ukrainian people? At the beginning of the war, hundreds of thousands of people left their homes in Ukraine. And then Ukraine soldiers went off to war, disrupting their lives. Estimates of Ukrainian soldiers dead from the war, about 340,000. 20 to 30,000 Ukrainian civilians dead. We've got estimates of Russian soldiers dead are about 40 to 50,000. And this does not take into account the Ukrainian injured, which is usually 2 to 3 times more than the dead. This doesn't take into account the soldiers that are returning from the war front with PTSD. How many of our soldiers are returning from war with PTSD? How many of our soldiers are in rehab centers because of drug abuse and addiction? How many of our soldiers are taking their own lives on a daily basis because of the horrors of war? The Ukrainian soldiers don't have access to such facilities for treatment. So Ukrainian numbers are undoubtedly much higher. Estimates, probably 1 million Ukrainian soldiers. And just what has the Ukrainian people got from our proxy war with Russia? Death and destruction. And a one-time personality on TV who is now a multimillionaire, estimated by Forbes, or approximately about approximately $30 million from Forbes, and from other sources that are saying up to $1 billion. This is tearing my heart apart. Nothing is being said about the destruction of the Ukrainian people, the Russian people. We're talking about death and destruction. Human beings being torn up, their lives destroyed for the rest of their lives if they live.
Yeah.
What are we getting out of the Ukrainian war?
So for that last question, I mean, you brought up a lot of very impactful things here, and I will agree with you. If the mention of it comes up, I mean, I have heard some reporting on today, such as some of the peace summits, not really peace summit because Russia isn't invited, but so more international pressure mounting going on, like say routed through Saudi Arabia, mostly designed to end up attracting China willing to come to the table, essentially is the way that's been described to me as being essentially structured that way. And that has had some of there's the 10 points that they've been putting forth on the idea of ending it, removing all soldiers, those kind of things. I'm not going to hold my breath on one, because given that one of the belligerents is not even present at this thing, it sounds more like an international pressure campaign than it is going to be a true peace effort. But even outside of that, one of the more recent times I've heard of this has been about primarily, I would say, the agricultural impacts on the grain exports, the deal, the policies, what would go into it, the impact that particularly places like Middle East, Africa, and other parts of the Eastern Hemisphere are feeling from that. That's one of the major things I've heard from this. But I will say that I am one of those people that have sought out more on this, because there's actually a line from Jon Stewart that sticks with me here in describing coverage of war from years ago, probably from some random viewing of The Daily Show that I've seen come up in other comments since. And it was along the line that coverage of war, both based on censorship, because you can't truly show the person that has been blasted apart and who is no longer in one place but multiple, is the most way I think I can describe that at this point in time. But even that, it's also about, it's not even just what is available and able to be shown on, say, network television or on the standards that now exist for, say, graphic content on social media platforms. It's also do they think people will be able to stomach it? And generally the answer is no, because a lot of people, when presented with that kind of thing, I mean, there's a pseudo joke that goes around saying that I have had PTSD from seeing things that I did not intend to online, but are now seared into my brain. Because if you do know where to look, and no, I am not going to mention any of those, because if you're truly wanting to delve into it, there are multiple ways to, but that's not what we exist here to talk about. But let me say this, that the line is that when war happens, when a soldier dies, they do not just poof away and leave behind a shiny coin. they are horrific casualties and things that come along with this. And frankly, the amount of open source intel that exists on this, I've seen live feeds coming out from primarily the Ukrainian side. The Russians are getting a little bit better about that, keeping them from their live feeds from drones and such being available, or at the very least not sharing it outside of their own sources. And so I've seen a lot of that. And yeah, the trench warfare 2.3.0, if you want to put it that way, that we're dealing with these days, it's a little nuts. And the information that is available and can be found out there, I mean, to be able to watch the progression of a battle, the drone footage of an artillery spotter drone, then zeroing in on someone's lines, it sometimes becomes unclear which side exactly it is serious and graphic and disturbing as hell. And yet I feel myself compelled to personally seek those out to truly get the grasp of this. Because, yeah, it may be easy to, I mean, what's the other line coming from Stalin? We talk about one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. And so when you start talking about that, oh, well, these many battalions, this movement, this many shells done, it becomes a little anesthetic. It becomes, frankly, just like clinical. Like, well, these are just numbers then, and not truly recognizing the impact of it. So to your final question there, the one...
Are you here? I mean, do you hear anything about the horrors of war on TV? Of course not.
No.
People don't want to hear it. They out of sight, out of mind. We need to hear it, but our media won't allow us to hear it. We've got to hear it. This is horrible. These people are dying as we speak. People are
Correct.
dying in the trenches, calling out for their loved ones as they speak their last words. This is awful. This is the worst. This is the worst thing that my country has ever done. I am so sick of it. We need to do something about. Quit fighting these wars. These are people dying, not the statistics on TV, not pictures, not a bunch of politicians making statements about how wonderful war is. It's got to end. It has to end. And if it doesn't end, we deserve what we get. God will take his actions against us. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I don't see any ending to it.
I don't see it happening in the near future. That's for sure.
I am going to say, let's go, Brandon.
Fair enough.
And
well,
have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay well. God bless you, and pray for this country to do what's right for a change.
Well,
270 years. We've been in existence over 270 years, and we've been at war with different people over 220 years.
Mm-hmm.
It has got to end.
Well, I do appreciate the point and the call. You have a good one there as well.
Please, call your congressman. Tell him to quit this stuff.
I mean, it is a difficult one here. And again, I mean, there is a lot of information out there for people who are willing or are wanting to seek it out. And what I will say is this to Ben's actually final question there before we got to that part of it about why are we still involved in this? And I get Ben's perspective of that we are continuing it or perpetuating it. But I will say very much, this is my reading of it, not of any official source or anything. It's a fight it there, so it's not fought over here type of mentality, if not 100% immediately in effect that way. I mean, this is a proxy war. There is no doubt about this, both with the BRICS, not exactly, certainly Russia, I mean, directly involved, China to an extent, but then pretty much the industrialization of the West and the power coming up and gearing up towards it. And I mean, in some ways, the cracks are showing, particularly when we're talking about all of the giveawayable stockpiles of weapons being depleted. But I will say this, anyone thinking that therefore the U.S. is out of weapons would be sadly misinformed. And because there are minimum stockpiles that are kept for basic readiness purposes. Now, of course, when we talk about true, I mean, this is the first incident of industrialized warfare at true scale that we have really dealt with. I mean, someone brought Mondo Mankanda asking over on the Twitch stream, worse than Vietnam for this. That was not during my time. So I mean, I think there's an argument to be had there, certainly. But what I will say this is that even during Vietnam, there was some elements of industrialization of the warfare going into it, but mostly in the guerrilla style. I would be pretty confident saying this is the first industrialized warfare that we have truly seen, certainly in the 21st century, but pretty much since World War II. And I mean, because Korea kind of, but it was not at this level in this scope where it was not about the force of arms you have at the front line, but rather the supply chains you have behind it that ended up making the difference. And that's truly the difference in this case, because I mean, if you were just talking about force of arms present at the time, there's some stats out there I've been reading up. I might be getting conflated with a similar conflict from the previous century of the Winter War, a subset technically within the scope of World War II. But in that case, it was that in either, I believe it was 1 week that the then Soviet Union invading into their former possession that was then Finland, its own separate country after around the time of the end of the Tsarist regime, their own independence, that in 1 week they had fired the same amount of tonnage of shells that was the Finnish government's entire reserve of artillery shells. And I mean, we're talking about a similar type of, in terms of just what was present on hand. I mean, there are the stats that go around of the amount of material, planes, vehicles, other things that existed in Ukraine before the West in general, NATO specifically, began to provide things to it. And it would have been outrageously mismatched. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. I will say some other thoughts, including from, say, John Brazelton, well, Ukraine could just give up and let the Russians take over. And that's why, as much as, I mean, human suffering is never a goal, and for anyone that it is, I have various assumptions and thoughts about where you're coming from with that. None of them particularly positive. But I will say this, that I'm not sure the alternative of ending it just to end it and be done with it and no longer have that. I mean, some of the other stories that do come out about what is happening behind the occupied parts of Ukraine and things like that are not necessarily something that I would be, I mean, as much as it's, Ben is right. This is not our flesh and blood in play at the moment. It is someone else's, some other countries, and their service members who don't have the same facilities and are probably going to be scarred for life. But is the alternative, if there is a peace on anything besides Ukrainian terms, that's about the only way I can see this coming to an end. But let's go ahead and take that next break already right now. I mean, Friday is here and we're getting into the serious stuff as we do. So if you want to get on that line, just filled up at the moment, but keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
The slow traffic on I-10 eastbound continues. Vinton down to Red from the Upper Valley. It's a 22-minute delay. I-10 eastbound after Sunland Park. Watch for a large vehicle being towed that's partially blocking the right lane on I-10 east after Crockett. Stay to the left there. A stalled brown Cadillac's blocking the left lane exit ramp I-10 westbound at the Patriot. And an injury accident still being worked on northbound Airway at Edgemere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night. Open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively. Across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Could you use monthly payments to help meet basic needs, like putting food on the table, paying the rent, or buying new shoes for growing feet? Find out about Supplemental Security Income. You may qualify if your income and financial resources are low and you're 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. Call 1-800-772-1213 or go to ssa.gov/SSI. Produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. When a restaurant closes, my reaction is, that sucks. They had good steak. When regional banks close or 3 of them close overnight, it freaks me out. This is why I have my own personal gold reserve. It's part of my personal protection plan. Call my friends at Oxford Gold Group. Call 833-404-GOLD. 833-404-GOLD. That's 833-404-GOLD.
Wildlife poaching doesn't just happen in faraway places. It's a crime committed against countless wild animals all around you. Poachers don't care about hunting seasons, endangered species, or even the safety of other humans. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, which protects wild animals through habitat preservation and by confronting cruelty, needs your help. Learn your state's wildlife laws, so when you witness a crime against a wild animal, you can report it immediately. Help protect wildlife at wildlifelandtrust.org.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, a lot of conversations, a lot of other things going on, and a lot of course, comments coming in on those social pages, such as a couple quotes come to mind when seeing, a lot of also about this and what is going on. And the previous caller there, including a Tridasac, saying, I think Ben misses that people are desensitized, so hearing about it won't make a difference. And also another one, very impacting, Maria Common saying, no one ever wins a war. I question the core reason we ever became involved. A couple quotes come to mind. One, not exactly traceable, because it's almost like more like a truism. War does not determine who is right, only who is left. We're not talking about politically, but in physically still around. Another one that does come to mind in this, and this one is attributable, is it is, well, war is so terrible, or we should grow too fond of it, from Robert E. Lee. And you want to think about, the horrors was talking about it, things like, Antietam, Gettysburg, and now how it's gotten so much more possible to have destruction in almost any way. It's, feels almost like he didn't get the full idea of it, what it can be now. In any case, not saying that he was wrong in any way, but just maybe he didn't know how right he was going to be. But also how perception and reality often are, an interesting relationship with each other. And I don't know if people should necessarily be forced to look at war, because I don't know if that would be feasible, right, or correct for everyone. But there's an older phrase, see the elephant, that uses in some cases like this about sometimes the draw of seeing what it is really like and what it really is. And I wonder how much the internet and the sources that do exist along those lines have affected, satiated, or maybe even created more of a market for that kind of thing. What's also a question, just on a technical note, on if we're up on YouTube or if YouTube is up. We do appear to be streaming over there right now, so that's the best way I can give to it, besides any mental health implications that are coming up that way. And also other issues coming up, like Rick Ray is saying, New York City can't handle any more immigrants. I do know that some of the most recent stuff, as of what's the most recent one I got out? Nope, that's not quite the one. There's usually Friday updates. Yep, they're from Operation Lone Star, from Governor Greg Abbott's press office, noting that the specific busing of about over 10,000, so let's call it close to 11,000 to New York City since August of 2022. And I will say, as much as from this perspective in the borderland, it's thinking like, well, we've seen that in the span of a week in some times. But of course, the circumstances are somewhat different, of this being more of a kind of pass-through area as opposed to then a settling kind of thing. And I know there are stats out there for other major cities existing about how many people are moving to there at a certain point, but still usually people are moving there with like support networks, and particularly with the Venezuelan situation, what we're still seeing from that, even vastly different in its own way from the Mexican migrant situation, or from even other Central and South American countries, primarily Central American countries, being a very different level of resources being required. It is causing a difference in the response and what is required. So we also have Ida Beza Gardner joining us with a happy Free for All Friday with the wave to you as well. Do appreciate it. And some of those dropping those likes and reacts, including, it's gone past my list here already. So doing a fair job as I can. Ida Beza Gardner, Adon Trawick, Rick Reyes, Ion Grimm, Amber Banda, Monica Cervantes, Ross Ledger, Robbie Flores, Amos Lara, and James Holmes. So let's get right back to those phone lines. Now, again, full up at the moment, probably will be through most of the show. So when one call ends, a line becomes available. I'll try to make that clear if I can. 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM is the number to call. And we do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Yeah, Putin's propaganda has done a real number on Ben. Like, it's relevant to note conspiracy theorists and right-wing echo chambers are known for pushing pro-Putin and pro-Russian talking points. But anyway, if one were to have actually watched the bipartisan January 6 hearings in full, nothing Trump is being prosecuted for in his latest criminal indictment by a grand jury is a surprise. Like, the bipartisan January 6 hearings and investigation proved Trump tried to steal the 2020 election, and if the Constitution were to mean anything, then this indictment had to happen. This indictment of Trump provides another opportunity for conservatives to inform themselves as well, to not be willfully ignorant, to not put Trump and party before the Constitution and country, to see how their information sources are keeping them ignorant of Trump and the Republican Party's attempt to steal the 2020 presidential election. Like, conservatives, due to their bad faith information sources they confuse as credible, are generally not aware of the profound national trauma Trump's election fraud lies and coup attempt have inflicted on this nation. They think it's some partisan game where the truth doesn't matter, or something that was fair game to try because the lies conservative media have told them about what Democrats do, which usually takes some form of whataboutism. Like, this is why conservatives generally don't care about these traitorous crimes against the Constitution and country Trump committed, refuse to watch the January 6 hearings, refuse to read the indictment that prosecutes Trump for the crimes detailed in them, and even try to defend these traitorous crimes by citing unproven and disproven claims about Hunter Biden. Like, those who actually care about the Constitution, the country, and facts more than Trump or their conservative tribe have watched the bipartisan January 6 hearings on Trump's coup attempt, and they've read the latest criminal indictment that supports nearly every major point made during those hearings. Again, the latest criminal indictment of Trump corroborates and prosecutes nearly every major crime detailed in the January 6 hearings. Like, Trump repeatedly promoted claims he knew were false to steal a presidential election. He repeated these claims he knew were false in the Georgia phone call to election officials we can all listen to online of him trying to steal that state. He repeated them in the courts to steal swing states, and he repeated them to his dim-witted followers the day of January 6th to stop the count of state electors, to steal the election. It is our civic duty as Americans to actually care about the truth about Trump's coup attempt, to watch these hearings, to read the indictment, to look at the evidence like an American who actually cares about the Constitution and country would. Like, we know these election fraud lies cause mass right-wing terrorism, continue to cause right-wing terrorism, and were promoted by Trump to steal a presidential election, even after everyone he had personally investigating them told them they were false. Courts told them they were false. Trump supporting Republican officials in these states he was challenging told them they were false. Trump told these terrorism-causing lies anyway to steal the election. Conservative media promoted these election fraud lies even after the courts ruled they were false. We have known for over a year now that Trump tried to destroy the Constitution alongside American democracy in his brazen attempt to steal a presidential election. This was proved beyond any doubt during the bipartisan hearings on January 6th, about January 6th, that most conservatives refused to watch. The sworn testimonies under oath during those investigations from Trump's handpicked White House counsel, his Attorney General Bill Barr, Rudy Giuliani, two of Trump's campaign managers, and others in his inner circle leading up to January 6th in their sworn testimonies all told him his election fraud lies were investigated and found false. Trump told these election fraud lies anyway. This proved he tried to steal the election. That bipartisan investigation did the patriotic and important legwork to hold Trump legally accountable for these traitorous crimes he committed against the country. And you repeatedly stated these sworn testimonies and hearings did not prove anything to sweep these facts under the rug.
So let's get into bringing up not only the actual legal terminology part of this. Let's talk about that in terms of the phrase specifically proven. What does that phrase actually end up meaning? Because you can say, oh, this proves something, or a lot of people use it in like the scientific thing about scientifically proven, which studies don't actually do. They can show statistical significance or not, but not exactly what you're talking about. But let's put it this way. That's the difference between this action and what the January 6th hearings have resulted in. Pretty significant, right? Pretty starkly different, because what I actually said, if you had bothered to listen and not taken the assumptions, take the assumptions out of it, and we're going to have a much better time, let's put it that way, is that of the January 6th progressions and of the hearings, it could never have resulted in this. It was always going to take this separate process, this going to a special prosecutor. And so my question at that point in time was, if that's what you want the outcome to be, why not start there? I mean, there was very much backing up a bit, any process that happens through Congress is essentially inherently a political one, whether it comes to, impeachment on its own. Honestly, if you want to go to that one, that is an inherently political process, which, again, to make clear, is not a dig or a disparagement or a thing, and therefore it's not real. That's just the nature of it. And if you're not going to recognize the nature of something, I don't know really how we're going to be able to have a conversation about this. So if this is what you wanted, if you were wanting to see there be actual penalties coming against the former president, my question would have then been, why not start with this? If this is truly the way you believe and what the outcome that you wanted, why not go with this to begin with? Frankly, there's, again, with the other political inputs that came out of January 6th, I mean, sure, you may say informing the American public and stuff like that. And I mean, there's a purpose there, but it was also, let's just say there was obviously a little bit more going into, at least a bit going into the 2022 election as part of it as well. Whether or not that worked out well, I mean, they didn't totally lose control of the legislature, the House, sure, and the razor-thin margins that still continue to exist within the Senate. So if that was what the hopes were being hitched to, as was being talked about also at the time, it didn't totally work out. But let me also take a further step back here. And it seems to me that, I mean, and based on what you've said previously, that you're wanting to educate people. You're wanting to wake people up from things. The emperor has no clothes, so to speak, or maybe a better example would be maybe the Pied Piper. It seems to me that you do feel that there is a whole lot of people being led down this primrose path, and that they are you're wanting to say, hey, don't do that. That you find yourself almost feeling like the unwritten hero of the whole Pied Piper story, as he's done leading the rats away and taking away all the children because of the non-payment, that you're the one saying, hey, no, don't do that. That's bad. And yet the way you end up going about it is, and has been pointed out by some of the callers and commenters as well, including specifically Austin Redfern commenting, dim-witted followers, ? So if you feel yourself or finding yourself in that or any other analogy you end up preferring when it comes to the role you feel you are fulfilling by doing this, would you have imagined that that unwritten hero would have then been shouting at the children, hey, y'all are idiots, you should listen to me instead? I need you. There's a reason I asked the questions I have asked in the past that you have not answered about, have you found this method effective in your own life? If this is truly your goal, taking you at your word on that, because it doesn't seem like that actually is your goal. Maybe what you tell yourself or you feel you might be doing, but if you're actually looking at effectiveness of what you're doing, have you found anyone being perceptive or being bond yourself, willing to accept that? And I'm going to submit probably not, because at the very least in my own life, the one saying me, hey, you're bad, you're evil, so you should listen to me instead, tends not to be someone that I take all of that seriously. So frankly, my dude, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to take your ego out of it. That's, I think, one of the big differences in the way we end up going about this, and why, much as I get the comments about how can I stand this, is because, I mean, sure, I feel very happy and privileged and have worked very hard to be in this position to talk about the things going on, for the most part, in El Paso, and then, of course, across the country, and to have these discussions when we come to Fridays. But there's a reason that I end up, particularly when you come to me and then accuse me of specific things that then don't end up actually bearing out when I've asked you umpteen time for quotes, or when you do bring me the quotes, it ends up being not quite what you're expecting in the response there, I know, is laughter, is because if you just took the ego out of it, I think you'd find yourself having a better time, maybe actually being able to have a conversation with people, and, well, maybe like actually achieving some of those goals, if that's truly what you're wanting to do there. If you just want to slap people around and say, nope, you're bad, and I feel like I'm doing something by denouncing you, like, if you want to talk about elected officials, we do all the time, and about what they're doing, is it good, bad, or not? Like, sure, that's, I mean, they put themselves out there in the public light, but when you come down to the idea that most, if not all, conservatives, or anyone that calls themselves a Republican, is just inherently flawed, and therefore nothing they can do can be good, or anywhere near even approaching that, I don't think you're going to have a good time, and I don't think you would actually apply that anywhere else in your life here. So we'll see what comes out of these charges and the parts of it. It's been interesting to see that there has been specifically asked for by the prosecutors a speedy trial, and then it has been through the lawyers for the former president and the not exactly unindicted co-conspirators, but the 6 that have been listed there as well, aides and other teams, part of it. But they've asked for lengthy time, maybe even years, as I believe was part of our news update at the top of this hour. And one thing I will say about this is that also, I mean, maybe this is if you truly wanted the former president to just go away forever, be done with. This might be closer to it, potentially, even though there have also been legal scholars saying that even being found culpable and guilty on charges like this would not prohibit him from holding the presidency. And if we've learned about just about anything about the character and the personage and the governance style of the former president, that it is, if it's possible, he's probably going to at least explore the possibilities. So we'll see how that works. But also, in the meantime, he's definitely fundraising off of this. I don't know if numbers have come out just yet. I haven't seen them myself personally. 40 million hangs in my mind, but that may have been from like previous such efforts. So just saying that, just kind of as a personal note between you and me, that just beating people up about saying you're bad for what you believe may not be the way you want to go about this in the future. Just saying. Anyway, got to take that next break right now, well over the need for it. But, and don't think I don't see you in the comments over there when you, I mean, it's pretty feckless, my dude. You're a liar and a traitor. Oh, man. You know what, Eric? You're right. Please tell me what to do. Is that really what you expect coming out of this? Or is it just feeding your own ego, my dude? Ask yourself that sincerely. Personally, I think you'll have a better time in a life with it. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will get to more phone calls, comments, and everything we do on Fridays. So that number to call, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Vania Castillo with your CBS 4 headlines. In West El Paso, police are investigating a death on Frontage Road. Officers responded to Desert Boulevard between Mesa and Red Road exits yesterday at around 2 p.m. Details are limited, but as soon as we learn anything, we'll, of course, make sure to keep you updated both on air and online. And a rollover crash in downtown El Paso left an SUV significantly damaged. Police officers and firefighters responded to the crash just before 3 o'clock at the intersection of Wyoming Avenue and Santa Fe Street near I-10. So far, we have not been told what led up to the crash or if anyone was injured in the incident. And a woman was arrested accused of driving while under the influence of alcohol. Anika Fasolino was taken into custody last month during a traffic stop on Zaragoza. Fasolino told officers she was leaving a local bar. An investigation revealed that she was drunk and was arrested for a DWI. She was booked into the El Paso County Detention Facility under a $4,000 bond. For more local headlines, you can check our website at cbs4local.com.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
The slow traffic on I-10 eastbound continues. Vinton down to Red from the Upper Valley. It's a 22-minute delay. I-10 eastbound after Sunland Park. Watch for a large vehicle being towed that's partially blocking the right lane on I-10 east after Crockett. Stay to the left there. A stalled brown Cadillac's blocking the left lane exit ramp I-10 westbound at the Patriot. And an injury accident still being worked on northbound Airway at Edgemere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is forecaster Nasai Mancini. Well, folks, we're in for a pretty hot weekend here in the borderland. Have that heat advisory already in place. Will be expiring on Sunday at 6 a.m. Then we'll be upgrading, though, to an excessive heat warning Sunday at 6 a.m., lasting all the way until Tuesday at 12 a.m. Going to see very warm temperatures here in the borderland, especially as we go throughout the weekend. We're looking around 107 to 109 here in El Paso. So make sure you're staying hydrated and head on over to kfoxtv.com for the latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has great prices on everything you need for back to school. Right now, 2-pocket poly folders and an 8-pack of Staples No. 2 pencils are just 50 cents. Offer ends August 26. Pricing and limits may vary in-store and online. School on, save on at Staples.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The heat is back, so get ready, El Paso. It's going to be a long, hot summer. At Scott Heating and Cooling, we're ready to help you maintain and service your home and business HVAC system. We service all major brands of heating and cooling equipment, as well as commercial kitchen equipment and walk-in freezers. With appointments available 7 days a week, make an appointment online or call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today at 915-595-4529.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Ruli's International Kitchen, just a great little gourmet dive and a great source for both the familiar flavors and those international fusions that come along with them. Always new features at the front door there on their blackboard, and I always end up looking at that anytime that I go in, but they've got a whole lot of great selections, options, the tapas, the special events, the plates, and they got more ones coming up, including what they got going on for you starting today. They are going to be doing their Rick at Night and the Reverse Happy Hour, so you want to check them out. Starting tonight at 9. They're going to be having their special pizza menu. So happening Friday and Saturday nights, 9 to 11, Reverse Happy Hour, Rick, as in R-I-K, Ruli's International Kitchen at night. Of course, you can find them online, rulisik.com. That's RULISIK.com. Give them a call. Make your reservation. 915-313-4806. That's 915-313-4806. Or you can just visit them. They're not too far from Mesa and Executive, 4176 North Mesa, Ruli's International Kitchen.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, whichever works out best for you, and whatever is the best way for you to come, see, participate to your satisfaction. Just note, as if it wasn't demonstrated very well very recently, that we do, I mean, if you want to talk about things, feel free to, but know that also talking about other things or responding to it, that's on the table too. I mean, free speech means free speech. Just don't think that anyone else saying anything about, for, and in response to you means that you don't have it. That's their free speech too. Anyway, get back to those phone lines now. I think we got time for at least one more call before we hit that top of the hour right now. And of course, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Marco over in Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
You're a phony. You're a big fat phony over there. That's the Unabomber yelling at you over there.
I need to find that clip from, well, the first part anyway, from Family Guy is the one that sticks in my mind from over the years. I'll need to make that like a sound button I play sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Catcher in the Rye is definitely Eric's favorite book. But
okay.
Look, let's be serious here. Today, the reason I gave you 3 ideas,
sure,
or 2 ideas the last 3 days. Okay, so today I want to talk about my third pillar. We're making my campaign very easy, but all of these are intertwined. Okay, so the first one was the 10 charging stations for electric vehicles, because I believe that's going to be essential for El Paso's growth. Number 2 was the revitalization of downtown area and declaring it an old town and trying to make the central government into that Wells Fargo building. This way we would have a city hall again.
I think that's just one note. I think it's a Sunflower Bank building now, isn't it?
And it's a massive project.
Sure.
The project is called Project Metropolis. Why is it called Project Metropolis? I'll tell you why. Because we are finally going to build a downtown for the future. It will be on the other side of Trans Mountain, coming out towards Las Cruces.
Oh, okay.
And so there's all this beautiful land there. The only obstacle I see is there's a cement company there, but I'm sure every party can always come to an amicable deal, because it's for the betterment of El Paso what we're doing. This would bring in work projects like El Paso's never seen. We would finally be able to offer the economic center that El Paso needs, Juarez needs, Las Cruces needs. We would be a true metroplex area. And so my idea is to build a brand new downtown on the other side of Trans Mountain on the west side. That's part 1 of Project Metropolis.
Okay.
Part 2 of Project Metropolis would happen in my second term, of course. And that would be finally building a power center for the east side. We wouldn't be a full downtown, but it would be a functional power center where we could finally try to get some business for the military section in that part of town. And it would still be on the other side of Trans Mountain, right in front of Walmart. So this building, the idea of the brand new downtown area is on the other side of the outlet malls. And so Canotillo, all these little Doña Ana, those areas are going to become very beautiful areas with homes. I can see brand new centers going up there. There is so much untapped potential that we haven't looked at. And so we're desperately saying, how can we get work to the region? There it is, Project Metropolis. How can we make ourselves the power economic center of the Southwest? Here we go. And so that's the third pillar of my idea, Project Metropolis. I'm hoping I give everybody a lot of fat to chew during the weekend. And again, Marco for mayor. I know I'm not, again, I'm a blue collar worker, but I'm a blue collar worker with lots of ideas.
Sure thing. So one question I have to put to you there, and I think the part that didn't come through here, I think the building you're talking about downtown, the former Wells Fargo building, I think it's now the Sunshine Bank, or the Sunshine, Sunflower, something like that bank building?
No, the actual Wells Fargo.
The actual Wells Fargo.
I don't know if they own it. I mean, I would love to negotiate for it. That building is iconic in the downtown area. And that building, it has this image of power that I think that the government of El Paso needs to start. Hey, I'm not saying we're dominant, look at us, but I'm saying your city is awesome. Your city, you live in an awesome city, and your center of government is right here. You don't have to go travel anywhere else. You come downtown, everything you need is here. That's how I view it.
It's an interesting concept, and the idea of building more or encouraging the development of more like, I don't know, central business, maybe not a central business district, but other business development areas, because not too far from what you're talking about, at least on the northwest, I guess is what we're starting to talk about it there, would be the idea of, I mean, there's the West Town Marketplace that's out there, and if you go out further on the other side of the county, but out to I-10 way, then there's the East Lake Marketplace. I think that's the right way to put it.
You have the potential to build all the way up to the border if you want to. I mean, right here, there are some communities, but there's so much land there. And my view of El Paso in the future is when you're flying in from California, anywhere in the West, you're going to have a brand new downtown area with the backdrops of the Sierra Madres. Another thing that I have an envision for, and maybe we can challenge some architects once Project Metropolis is more solidified and I get into office, we can start to maybe even think of how can we build a condominium that challenges the tallest condominium and really change the view of El Paso, because this city is so beautiful. The region is so beautiful, and there's so much untapped potential here. We need to become, I don't know if anybody's read Ayn Rand. I'm sure Eric has read it a million times. But we need to become Giles Gulch. We need to become a different thinking economic powerhouse here. I think looking for Levi Strauss to come back here, looking for X to come here, looking for Toyota, we could, in the new downtown area, let's build a brand new MLS stadium for a professional soccer team for El Paso, which is what we should have done. Yeah, these ideas are, nobody ever talks about this, and we have been sleptwalked by our leaders. I'm tired of being asleep. I'm awake, and I'm ready. There's a saying in one of my favorite books is Dune, but Duke Letos has this beautiful saying, and he tells it to his son. He said, "A person needs change in order to grow, and if we don't change, this city will always be asleep." And so, all I can do is offer ideas.
Sure.
Marco for mayor. The people need this. This is for them. This is for El Paso. This is for us.
Interesting concepts here, but we got to take that next break right now. So I'm sure we'll keep talking about this and other things going on here. So appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You're welcome, brother. Have a beautiful day and have a beautiful weekend.
Absolutely, you two there as well. So with that, got to take that break. Again, that phone number if you want to call in as we get into the top of the next hour, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Plenty of slow traffic in the Upper Valley on the I-10 eastbound from Vinton down to Red, a 17-minute delay. Southbound on Memorial Highway in the East Valley at Montana, a large bus is stalled, blocking the right shoulder. A lot of slowing still from an earlier crash northbound Airway at Edgemere, and slow traffic on northbound Mesa Street from the downtown exits to North Desert with 10-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
On How Rude, Tanneritos, the Full House Rewatch podcast. Join characters Stephanie Tanner and Kimmy Gibbler, also known as actresses Jodie Sweetin and Andrea Barber, as they relive every episode of your favorite Friday night comfort show.
We spent our entire childhoods on a little show called Full House, playing frenemies, but becoming besties whenever the cameras weren't rolling. And now, 35 years later, it's our biggest adventure yet.
Listen to How Rude, Tanneritos on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wendy's BOGO $1 deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave single, spicy chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook.
Things seem to be calming down and crowds have dispersed in New York's Union Square after a social media influencer's giveaway sparked chaos. It started when Twitch streamer Kai Cenat said his fans have to show up to get some video giveaways.
Final time saying this, anybody who just coming in the stream, Friday, 4 o'clock, Union Square Park, at 4 o'clock, me and Phantom are giving away PCs, gaming chairs, PS5s, gift cards.
The impromptu giveaway for 300 PlayStation video game consoles caused thousands of people to show up. Police say Cenat is in police custody and officers have made several other arrests. Former President Trump is back on the campaign trail after his arraignment yesterday. He's scheduled to speak tonight at a GOP fundraiser in Alabama. He appeared before a D.C. judge yesterday and pleaded not guilty to election interference charges. The major opposition leader to Russian President Putin is being sentenced to 19 years in prison on alleged charges related to extremism. Russian media, which is controlled by the Kremlin, reports Alexei Navalny is facing longer jail time after being blamed for creating an extremist community and financing extremist activities. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott says he'll finish the border wall if he's elected president in 2024. Lisa Taylor reports.
While speaking to reporters from Yuma, Arizona Friday, Scott said he estimates the wall along the southern border will cost about $10 billion. When asked about whether he'd end birthright citizenship for children whose parents are in the U.S. illegally, Scott said Congress would have to act to do so. He said he believes the president could not implement that alone. Former President Trump has pledged to end birthright citizenship on the first day of office if he returns to the White House. I'm Lisa Taylor.
You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. 6 former Mississippi police officers are pleading guilty to charges related to the torture of 2 black men. Trey Thomas has the details.
The victims filed a lawsuit and claimed back in January the 6 white officers tortured them for nearly 2 hours before one of them was shot in the mouth. On Thursday, those officers pled guilty to charges including conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights, obstruction of justice, and discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. I'm Trey Thomas.
Michigan health officials are reminding residents that for the next 2 months, harmful algae may appear in lakes, rivers, and ponds. The formations are called HABs for harmful algal blooms and form through bacteria growth. They may also produce toxins that can be dangerous for humans and animals. There are new details about a U.S. Navy sailor in federal custody on suspicion of selling military secrets to a Chinese intelligence officer. Daniel Martindale reports.
The 26-year-old petty officer stationed at Naval Base Ventura County in Port Hueneme was arrested Wednesday. He allegedly sold military secrets for bribes between August of 2021 and May of this year, making nearly $15,000 in that time. He allegedly sent the Chinese intelligence officer operational plans for a large-scale U.S. military exercise in the Indo-Pacific region. He is also accused of taking photos of electrical diagrams and blueprints for a radar system at an American base in Okinawa, Japan, and sending information about operational security at Naval Base Ventura County. The man, who has pleaded not guilty, faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted as charged.
R&B legend Melba Moore is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Moore had a long string of R&B hits through the 1970s and 80s, has been nominated for 4 Grammy Awards, and is the winner of a Tony Award. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd at T-Mobile Arena.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
And starting Monday, you could win your way there.
Plus $1,000 spending cash.
Yeah. Having the time of your life is more rewarding than ever when you visit any MGM Rewards destination nationwide. Dine, stay, play, and earn on all of it. Details at MGMRewards.com. Subject to earning and redemption limitations applicable to certain purchases and in certain states.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
El Paso Electric is proud to present The Installers, live in your neighborhood. With their unique talent, they're bringing smart meters to every home and business and harmonies your electric bill. Smart meters give you the power to control energy use so you can rock and save every month. Let me see your hands in the air. Find your tour date at epelectric.com/smartmeters.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and superior protection. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Contact Tax Relief Helpers for details and restrictions. Attention anyone that owes money to the IRS. The IRS has restarted aggressive enforcement actions against taxpayers who owe back taxes that were temporarily suspended for COVID. If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this because now is the time to clear your IRS tax debt. A special toll-free number has been established so you can stop penalty fees, avoid liens, levies, and other hostile measures by the IRS. Call Tax Relief Helpers right now at 800-981-9615. Tax Relief Helpers will provide you with the maximum protection afforded by law.
I got behind on my taxes and owed $48,000. I didn't know what to do. I called and they got my bill lowered to just $3,500.
I owed $87,000 in taxes and it was scary. I got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
If you owe money to the IRS, don't wait another day. Call 800-981-9615 right now before the IRS enforces liens, levies, or other aggressive measures. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call now. Call 800-981-9615. 800-981-9615. 800-981-9615.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
The Rod Ryan Show.
It's the Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the morning. All of the once-in-a-lifetime events. All of the best free curated playlists. The best bands. All of the great podcasts for every interest. The stuff they don't want you to know. All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Everybody be tuning in, commenting, able to say and express yourself in those ways. That's the right place for you to be as we are in second hour of the program for this very important, as they all are, Free for All Fridays there. And, of course, those dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate, including Matt Olson, Buddy Vias, Robert Haynes, Ida Beza Gardner, Don Trewick, Rick Reyes, Ion Graham, Amber Banda, Monica Cervantes, Ross Ledger, Robbie Flores, Amos Lara, and James Holmes. And we appreciate the ability to talk about the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland and, of course, on a Friday beyond. well, we appreciate the support and the algorithmic things that come along with it in that way. So it's certainly no means a requirement for you to go comment over there. But if you can, or give a like, share, tell someone about the show, but particularly like take the conversations also into like the rest of your life, because it's one thing to show up and be like, okay, like podcasts out there, which we're also exploring, by the way, for those that miss out on that. May just be like the first part of the show most days, maybe before getting to the phone calls. I don't know. We're exploring that, and if you all got thoughts about it, feel free to share it. But in any case, the idea of keeping it going and not just leaving it kind of on the shelf, so to speak, when it just comes to our time during this, I think is pretty important. In any case, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, full up at the moment, probably will be throughout the rest of this hour if it experiences any guide, but keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. What's on your mind?
So, yeah, I tried to call in yesterday because I like to praise the city, whoever's in charge, whenever something goes right. Although my complaint is probably something that should have been done a long time ago. So if you're out there on the east side and you're going to that big exit off of Zaragoza for 375, that big off-ramp that eventually goes down by the Vista and then heads towards Sierra Este.
Sure.
There was this place where you turn right on Sierra Este by the CVS. There was this huge, long space where there should have been a turn lane for years and years and years. And whenever they were building that road, I was like, why aren't they building a turn lane? Because it's basically a bottleneck. They kept building out there by Pebble Hills,
sure,
and building and houses and building and building and building. But the only way to get out in that direction by Pebble Hills High School is to get through that bottleneck. And there was this huge space for a turn lane. Like, why didn't they do a turn lane? But they finally did it. It's complete. And I thank whoever recognized that for doing it. Now all I have to do is complete Montwood and connect there and help with this bottleneck situation. But at least they did that. So I got to give credit where credit's due.
Fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of road projects going on, and I'm glad that one worked out for you. I know that other people more on the, what do we call that? Okay, Montana east side. Is that the right way to put it? I don't know what the right way to put that is these days. But and then the more like or Horizon Way, we've got a bunch of, I want to say it's not Tierra del Este, but there's been some projects that have now been stalled because of contractor lack of availability and even bankruptcies, I believe. So I'm glad that this has worked out for you. I know there are some out there saying, yeah, not so much in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, there's definitely much more that could be done. Like I said, Montwood needs to be connected. That's still a bottleneck. I mean, it's a small Band-Aid on a bigger problem that should have been probably worked out a long time ago. But anyways, when it comes to Marco and the things he's talking about, I do like big ideas and I do like these concepts and things like that. But in reality, when you get into like a mayor position or something like that, I mean, you've got to deal with like the things I'm talking about, these smaller issues, and bigger things like what he's talking about. That would take decades, many mayors in order to bring that to fruition. And I'm not saying you can't start it. It's just you have to be realistic, and that you're talking about a lot of money, big changes, decades worth of development. So anyway, so I always call in. It's somehow whenever I'm going to call in, I catch the end of either Eric or Raul's daily broken record, trumped arrangement, regurgitated talking points. And so the Nazi propagandist Goebbels would be proud. Maybe their plan is to repeat a lot often enough so that people will believe it. And I love how, Andrew, you were like, why do you do this? Because you're correct that they don't actually convince anybody. So I think they do it to virtue signal. And you nailed it when you explained that to Eric, he kind of imagines himself as some sort of hero in this story. Really this religion he has, because politics is all he has. He dilutes himself as the savior. So the hypocrisy, though, is so absolutely glaring that nobody can possibly take him seriously. I mean, imagine complaining about conservatives about having bad faith arguments when he absolutely refuses to distinguish the difference between illegal immigration and legal immigration. So we allow 1 million people legally into the country every year, and conservatives don't mind that at all. And it doesn't matter what race you are. What we don't like is the chaos, the human trafficking, and the drugs, of course, that go along with the human trafficking. And there's sex trafficking and horrible things going along with it. But nobody complains about the legal immigration. And this chaos, I mean, these people who are elites and Democrats who are kind of making these talking points and living in these cities, they live in these gated communities. It doesn't affect them. Now, I think now in New York and Chicago, I don't know if you've seen those images and everything, like the hotels that have like immigrants like all around the building.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
There's no room. And now, now it seems like it's a crisis. Now it seems like a problem because now it's on their doorstep. Of course, whenever they shipped the immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, they got rid of most of them almost immediately. They shipped them out immediately. But, when it's in your city and it's affecting the people who are your constituents, then it becomes a problem. But when it was the border states and those communities, it's not a big deal. It's not a crisis. So the fact that Eric can come on here and claim that people who have an issue with this are just white supremacists is so fake and so sick. There's a lot of projection going on there. Some of these leftists are the worst racists I've ever seen, and you know, imagine. And they try to overcome it. They try to virtue signal their way out of it. But all they think about and obsess about is race. And so he'll also just take the worst of the right wingers, like these neo-Nazis, and of course he talks to silly people about Alex Jones and things like that.
Sure.
And he'll say, well, all conservatives believe these things that Alex Jones believes, or all conservatives believe these things that Nazis, because some Nazis believe it, and some people like Alex Jones, and then he projects that amongst all conservatives. It's such a silly and ridiculous straw man. So, and the same thing goes with the election and disputing elections. And Democrats my entire life have been disputing elections, but probably before Eric even knows about it because he's younger. But Democrats have been disputing elections forever. And even having electors, even when Trump was elected, Democrats had these plots to have different electors go in and do different than what the voters asked for. I mean, it was basically their idea. And these, what do you call it? The replacement, the great replacement thing. That was actually something that Democrats were talking about. I mean, Joe Biden brought it up himself when he was vice president that, importing non-white people was a source of our strength and that it was a good thing. I mean, that's, again, they're obsessed about the race, but what we care about is what are people's ideas? What do people believe in? Let's say that you had people coming to this country who, and I love Muslim people. I think there's lots of great Muslim people, but let's say you get a large group of people who come in here who believe that Sharia law should be the law of the land. And I don't think there's a lot of Muslims who are like that, but let's say there were. Does the United States want that? Or does the United States want people who come into this country and just, they feel like the government should be taking care of them as opposed to making your own way? And I'm not saying that Hispanics are like that at all. I actually think there are more Hispanics who are very, very hardworking. So it does matter what you believe, and it does matter what you put into it. But what we don't want is chaos, and then people taking advantage of the system, pretending that they have some kind of asylum claim when they really don't. The cartels training them to say certain things so that they can get the asylum thing. And that's just people gaming the system, and people want law and order. And if you break down the law and order, then you're going to get chaos. And we're headed in that direction. So for him to come on here and just, call everyone else white supremacists as if he's some kind of virtue signaling savior, it's really sick, and it bothers me.
I mean, okay, there are absolutely people out there that would like it if only people that look exactly like them were the people to exist anymore. Those people exist, and I have significant disagreements that have never had to come to violence in at least my lifetime, but it certainly has in the past. And anyone who thinks that that's an okay thing to maybe go along with, even if anyone thinks that they're going to be able to, like, well, maybe I qualify like that, so maybe I'll be able to go along with them. Again, they are interested in not even the idea of purity or whatever the way they couch it as, but of control themselves. And if you supplant them, you'll be found as some kind of Untermensch in some way. So of trying to say that, well, yeah, but it's not against me, therefore I'm not concerned about it. They're going to find a way, if you're not on their program, to kick you out of their program and make it so that you can exist if they ever come to power. I mean, we've seen that a million times before when it comes to either racial, ethnic, or even ideological things. I mean, the amount of genocides and mass removal of human events that have happened. I mean, we talk about some of the major ones, the Holocaust, or I've been seeing a lot of videos lately on the not saying it right, the Holodomor, what the Ukrainian famine and genocide that came along with it, and other ones. I mean, there's been a lot of them, and not all of them have necessarily, again, been entirely ethnic or entirely racially based, but it all comes down to a level of power. With our program, we either have to designate something as another. There's always a way to other someone, to make them into an other, whether or not they meet certain other guidelines. So anyone thinking that that's an okay way to think and exist and just go along with it. I mean, there's a great phrase or pseudo joke. It's not really a joke, more like a, oh, damn kind of thing of, that there were people in Germany that during the 1930s and 40s that they, were just along with it, that it wasn't, it was, uncomfortable things, particularly towards the end, but they just kind of went along with it and thought that they would just be good citizens and good people and try to do good regardless of it, and just had to go along with the program. And you know what they ended up calling those people? Nazis. Because the people that were just like, yeah, I'll just go along with it. It'll be fine. It doesn't really affect me, so why would I? It's not a good look. So there are people certainly out there espousing it and saying that, yes, this is how we should exist. And those thinking, well, yeah, but maybe it wouldn't be that bad for me personally. Therefore, no, it's not a way to exist and it's not a way to be. But also on the conflating everyone like those people is it's not a good way to get your argument heard or understood. There's some other comments going on out there about, entertaining idiots. And again, I wish you much luck for anyone thinking that's the way to get someone to then, you're an idiot, so therefore you should listen to me is, not a persuasive one in my mind.
Well, there's more than one bad thing about Nazis. Racism is, of course, the worst thing about Nazis, but that's not the only bad thing about Nazis. And people like Eric and the leftist tactic is people know that being racist is a terrible thing. And so that's why they call people racist, because that's their way of shutting you up, because they've got this other agenda. So if you can label someone as a racist, that's the way to shut you up about whatever issue they want to do. But the other bad thing about Nazis is that they still like big government. They just want benefits them as a race rather than other people as a race. When the American way is that the government shouldn't be doing a lot of these things that they're doing or favoring any side. That's not the government's role. So yeah, it's wrong all the way around. And of course, again, the hypocrisy is so absolutely glaring. And when they come on here and do their Trump derangement syndrome, oh, Trump was impeached twice and Trump was this and Trump that, it's like Trump, they put him, for the moment he started running for office, they had the FBI spying on his campaign. They tried to get him on these ridiculous laws that no one else was ever impeached for, different things. And in fact, the first time he was impeached, he was telling Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, like, hey, you're supposed to be fighting corruption, and this huge corruption is right in your face of Joe Biden getting this prosecutor fired. And now we even have more information on this. They have the emails showing that the reason why they hired Hunter Biden is because they wanted Joe Biden to get rid of this prosecutor problem. That prosecutor was actually more successful in combating corruption than the previous two prosecutors. And the person who replaced him, this guy's name was Shokin, he was doing just fine. And the person who replaced him wasn't even a lawyer. And in fact, the person who replaced him was in jail for corruption. That's the guy who replaced the lawyer that Joe Biden got fired, because Joe Biden didn't want this guy investigating Burisma, where his son was. I mean, there's so much there. And Trump's like, hey, you guys are supposed to be fighting corruption, and you've got this obvious glaring corruption that you haven't even dealt with. And then they punch Donald Trump for it. It's so sick and silly. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. I don't think it's going to get prettier. I think it's going to get uglier before it gets better.
I do think that, I've been saying this for the last couple of years, actually, that unless a lot of people make a lot of decisions to take a step away from the brinksmanship that has seemed to, I mean, if you want to go even a little bit further with it, that is being cited as a source of the credit or the bond reduction rating coming, I think, what was it, Fitch or one of the other major agencies that does the credit rating for large entities like the United States. That was one of the things cited on it, specifically in terms of like debt limits and those kind of things. But the whole idea of, well, we got to step to the edge, like the Penguins edging towards the edge of the iceberg to see who'll be the first one pushed in to find out if there is an orca in the waters or not is not a good way to do government or any of these other things we've talked about.
Oh, I can't believe you brought up debt and our government debt. I was already upset, but okay. We're going into the weekend. Let's try to think of something positive. Let's go back to the
Fair enough.
Good job, Department of Transportation, whoever's doing that. Keep trying to find where the problem areas are. Do what's within reach. Do things that are reasonable and helpful. And, you know, a lot of these fixes, they're not too expensive. They can get done around El Paso. And, you know, I like Marco. I think he's a great personality, but, you know, you have to be a little bit more realistic. Yes, you can think long term, but you also have to think about things that are right in front of you that can be done within, you know, the next month, years, a couple years. You got to keep your feet on the ground in that sense.
Reasonableness and also aspiration. I mean, there's a balance in most things in life to be achieved there. Well, I do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there and a good weekend.
All right, take care.
All right, I didn't mean to bring up the other upsetting thing, but hey, it's one of the things on my mind. But there's a lot other things going on and a lot more calls we'll try to squeeze into here. So again, taking that next break right now. Again, that phone number 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Mazer Security Alarms, your local solution for all of your security needs at home, the office, anywhere that you have something precious or important you want to keep safe and secure. We've had them doing installations around our office, the new technology that they are deploying here, including centralized door sensors and a whole lot more to come. Very excited to see that process going through. So if you want to find out them, no job is too small or too large, and they do have $0 down options. If you want to find out that, get your estimate and see what they can do for you, wherever it may be that you need the security, give them a call at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Slowest traffic in the valley right now, it's got to be the I-10 eastbound with one lane of travel from Vinton to Red. It's a 15-minute delay, mostly stop and go. On the 54 south, Stan Roberts down to Kenworthy, that's an 8-minute delay. In the lower valley, watch for an accident at the intersection of East Lake and Darrington. And I-10 westbound reports some road debris blocking the right center lane after Horizon at Harnos. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has what you need for travel: passport photos, luggage, headphones, even personal travel-sized items. Now get $10 off your purchase of 30 or more when you buy a travel service. In-store only offer ends September 16th. Exclusions apply. Staples, your first stop to nonstop travel.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and protection. Locally owned and operated, Mazer Security Alarms created Super Switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep your business and family safe. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Do flowers have best friends? I don't know. Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, and of course, Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and find them, of course, 950 Crockett Street. It's basically, they've got the big flag and sign right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. We'll change that before, whenever they change the mall name, but in the meantime, yeah, find them. Of course, they got their end of summerbration. I guess end of summer celebration was a little bit too long to say. End of summerbration going on for you right now. No payments for 90 days. Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And a lot of conversation, commentary going on our phone lines right now, and a lot of different ways. And, of course, taking those phone calls. Still full up, but just keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And some of the comments online, including the idea of two parties and the duopoly, like Leonidas Bermuda saying forefathers warned us of a two-party system. Well, it works about parties in general, but it's saying now we are seeing the results of not heeding those warnings. I mean, as much as it was part of Washington's farewell address, it was kind of a closing the barn door after the herd is already out kind of thing, because in my reading of history and in doing a semi-Hamilton-esque reading of it was oh, shoot, they're doing the thing. Guys, don't do the thing while they were already doing the thing. But in any case, let's go back to those phone lines now. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Stephen. Trump was the commander-in-chief of chaos, threatening death and destruction on North Korea. And after he had scared the Trump tourists out of the people, Trump said he fell in love with the communist dictator of the country and then flew over there, being the first president of the United States of America to enter that communist dynasty. Okay? Now, Marco for mayor, talking about Ayn Rand, the narcissist, hypocrite philosopher and proponent of the virtue of selfishness and critic of altruism. You know, Ayn Rand is known as the right-wing philosopher of college freshman boys. And Rand wasn't into Jesus Christ's dictum of treat others as you would want to be treated, by the way. And hey, Babbling Ben, get a grip, bro. You know, your failed Führer Trump called Putin's invasion of Ukraine genius. And Trump said he could end the war in hours. So why doesn't the potential Prince of Peace call his patron and pal Putin and tell him to get out of Ukraine? Write him, Ben, and cry to him about doing it. Now, by the way, Trump's former National Security Affairs Advisor, John Bolton, called Trump a Putin-loving moron. Now, reports are that this proxy war, which has cost about 5% of the Pentagon's budget for helping Ukraine, has degraded 50% of Russia's military, and the sanctions have devastated their economy, which is about the size of Texas. Somebody called Russia a filling station with nuclear weapons. Now, on another thing, karma or coincidence? Yesterday was the 4th anniversary of the Walmart Trump terrorist killing 23 El Pasoans, and it coincided with Trump's criminal indictments for conspiracy to defraud the United States of America. Karma or coincidence, you know?
Okay, my dude. You're really going to talk about this being like, oh man, he's getting karma for this. I need you to take a step back and think about what that day means for this community. again, their hate has no place in this community and any part of it. Anyone who supports it, I'm having issues with. But something about that ever so slightly gleeful tone that, oh man, isn't it so poetic that he got indicted and had to be arraigned and plead guilty on a day that you yourself call one of the worst days that has ever happened in this community? Okay, you can not like the former president. There's literally nothing I can do about that or have any particular inclination to do towards. But seriously, that's the way you're going to talk about this and be about this. Like, I get it. You don't like the former president. You want to see him go away forever. I'm assuming you haven't said as much, but that's the sum total of the statements that I'm taking into consideration here. And I mean, I said yesterday that I was going to have a very short bit of patience when it came to non-local topics, and we entertained a couple more than I probably should have, including from yourself. But really, that's the way you're going to go about this? I've had reason to refer to some of the things you've said as disgusting in the past. And at this point, when it comes to the gleefulness about oh man, this is really bad for them, huh? This anniversary of the attack on our community. Like, there are words I want to say that I can't right now, but I'm going to need you to at least think about what we're talking about and what that still means. I mean, sure, we're 4 years out. We were just through the federal trial and we still got the state one pending. So if you're thinking that, okay, at the very least in the too soon kind of vein of trying to make jokes or talk about, oh yeah, the political implications of this. Nah, my dude. No. Just simply flat out, no. We're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we are going to take more calls here. So if you're really wanting to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Vania Castillo with your CBS 4 headlines. In West El Paso, police are investigating a death on Frontage Road. Officers responded to Desert Boulevard between Mesa and Red Road exits yesterday at around 2 p.m. Details are limited, but as soon as we learn anything, we'll, of course, make sure to keep you updated both on air and online. And a rollover crash in downtown El Paso. Police officers and firefighters responded to the crash just before 3 o'clock at the intersection of Wyoming Avenue and Santa Fe Street near I-10. So far, we have not been told what led up to the crash or if anyone was injured in the incident. And a woman who was arrested accused of driving while under the influence of alcohol, Anika Fasolino, was taken into custody last month during a traffic stop on Zaragoza. Fasolino told officers she was leaving a local bar. An investigation revealed that she was drunk and was arrested for a DWI. She was booked into the El Paso County Detention Facility under a $4,000 bond. For more local headlines, you can check out our website at cbs4local.com.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Let's start with Artcraft eastbound at the I-10. That accident is causing stop-and-go delays, 16-minute delays on Artcraft back to West Side. A crash on Donovan Drive north of Artcraft between Artcraft and Spur 16 is causing slowing. And if you're sitting in traffic northbound Wrestler before Mesa Drive, it might be because of an accident reported at Mesa and Wrestler. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is forecaster Nasai Mancini. Well, folks, we're in for a pretty hot weekend here in the borderland. Had that heat advisory already in place, will be expiring on Sunday at 6 a.m. Then we'll be upgrading, though, to an excessive heat warning Sunday at 6 a.m., lasting all the way until Tuesday at 12 a.m. Going to see very warm temperatures here in the borderland, especially as we go throughout the weekend. We're looking around 107 to 109 here in El Paso. So make sure you're staying hydrated and head on over to kfoxtv.com for the latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, definitely the Thunderdome comments going on over there right about now. So if you want to wade in and decent time, you can always go back and see these. These do stay up, and don't think I don't see y'all making the comments well after hours. Just worried about some of y'all's sleep schedules is all I'm going to say. We're on from 4 to 6 p.m., not a.m. There's some people who do that professionally, and I'm not about it. In any case, those leaving those likes and reactions again: Matt Olson, Buddy Valles, Robert Haynes, Ida Beza Gardner, Don Trewick, Rick Reyes, Ion Grimm, Amber Banda, Monica Cervantes, Ross Ledger, Robbie Flores, Amos Lara, and James Holmes, amongst others, those actually taking the action, which is not by any means required, but we certainly do appreciate it. Let's get back to those phone lines now, squeezing in what we can before the end of the program. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Wow, so much to talk about, so little time. But I'm so happy that you took my call when you did, because I'm already 37 sheets to the wind. I got no more blues. Gone. Finished. And I didn't think, luckily I'm not at 40 sheets, you wouldn't be even talking to me. But let me say something. I heard Eric, all right? Now, I know he bugs the bejesus out of you, but I think a reasonable person could say that he's erudite and articulate. What he presents, you could argue 14 different ways of something, but he does present it intelligently. That's what I want to say about that. Now, number 2, I heard Ben, a.k.a. Befuddled Ben, going on about Ukraine, war in general. And I was in the Army for 23 years, so I know about that stuff. But let me say something.
Sure.
You know, anybody out there that thinks war is great is a nut job. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's nothing but terror into space with horror. Ridiculous. And it reminds me, many humans out there, Andrew, many of our fellow humans, they have not progressed beyond that level of thinking. They remind me so much of these ants, A-N-T-S,
Sure.
in South America called the Marabunta, right? And these are army ants. And all of a sudden they get a bug up their little derrieres and decide to just ruin everything. And that's what an army does. They just kill, destroy, wreck everything. It's the stupidest thing in the world as a human being that you need to be above this kind of thought process. Now, what do you think of that?
Anyone who thinks that war is, in any circumstance, whether it be internationally, whether it be regional conflicts, or the idea that sometimes gets floated here about that we need a second civil war, any of those people that are like, yeah, let's do it, I hope you're going to be on the front lines of that, and I hope that you'll have the ability to conceive of doing that before you actually move forward with any of these ideas. Because, think about it, It's awful. There's no one who's been like, oh yeah, war is wonderful. Even the people like from the past being like, oh yeah, we need to go off to war to become men. There was even a thought at that time that those people were a little bit unhinged before they had like the current language of like mental illness going along with it. And I mean, sure, it's, great rah-rah stuff. And the, idea of patriotism, fighting for the country, all those things will exist. There was actually, what was it? The update of essentially All Quiet on the Western Front that came out in recent-ish months, maybe like within the last 6 months or so, of All Quiet on the Western Front, the redo of that. And it starts out with that, showing a bunch of school kids in before World War I, or in the lead up to it, going out and being like, hey, we're leaving high school or their equivalent to go to war. And it shows all of particularly World War I. It started off with great amounts of patriotism, fervor. All of these countries, and particularly the leaders of those countries, excited as hell to be able to use these powerful new tools and technology to enforce their will. And what's the phrase? Work, it's the old men who make the declarations of war, and it's then the young men who die. And that very much holds true in any level of conflict, because it's the people who are making the decisions are not the ones that end up reaping the whirlwind of the consequences of those actions.
Well, let me tell you something, Andrew, and I'm serious as a heart attack. I don't lie, but I'm absolutely ecstatic on your thought process relative to what you just said, because that is an intelligent human thinking, and I love you for it. It's just great. And I just don't get how humans that have only been here, logically, if you will, 500,000 years intelligently wide, are still functioning like a bunch of ants, for crying out loud. What the heck is going on here? Where, at what time does the humanity of the world get together and say, listen, we've got to do something different. We are the superior species. We have intelligence. We're not like anything else out there. And you still, not you, you know what I'm talking about,
sure.
Universal you, get out there and start wars for the stupidest reasons whatsoever. Like I said, you're like a bunch of ants, a marabunda. I think they're in Brazil. I'm not too sure. But
sounds about right.
Nonsense. This is crazy. Anyway, what do you think of that?
I do think that we have shown, maybe in incredible baby steps. We've had moments in the last century, let's put it that way, that have, maybe not totally brought together the brotherhood of man, but, the moon landing, the exploration, the advancements that we've seen. Something that happened this week about the potential for there being a room temperature superconductor being developed, and the implications that would have for the world. There are incredibly exciting reasons to be excited about the future and the continued development, even if there is a whole lot of doom, gloom, what'll happen if we don't do things right, etc. But what I will say is that a couple of examples that actually, when it comes to international conflict, if only that old kind of like, I have more, the ant thinking, I've got a bigger army, I've got more than you, and I have the ability to wipe you out, and therefore I'm going to, thankfully has not always held, but those significant times when it hasn't are the ones that we still talk about to this day. Like, think about the Cuban Missile Crisis. That could have, in anyone's mind, reasonably, I think, devolved into the first nuclear shooting war. And yet, thankfully, the fact that we're still here being able to do this and talk about it is that it didn't. And I'm not saying that that's therefore everything's going to be fine, but there's moments, glimpses, if you will, of reasons to think that maybe sometimes the right thinking, the better thinking, does come through.
I hear what you're saying. You're such an intelligent individual. Last point. I heard that Donnie Doofus, that previous nut job, got missed about the fact that judge, the magistrate, during his arraignment, called him Mr. Trump. I'm so happy. Well, I shouldn't be so happy. I would love to be in the position of that magistrate, because I wouldn't be calling him Mr. Trump at all. And if you follow where I'm going with that, Andrew, you have a great weekend.
You as well. Appreciate the point in the call, and not saying the phrase you would have used there. Do appreciate it.
Okay, then.
All right, and with that, I think we have time for at least another call, or see what we can squeeze in right now. We do have Johnny in Central on the line with us here right now. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, I'm looking at the clock, so I had about 3 things to talk about, but
sure.
I'm quite sure we won't be able to get into it. So I get to one that I think was asked some time ago, and I'm going to bring it up again.
Sure.
Sometime in the past, they used to have the radio shows like CBS Radio, Mystery Theater, and or the Imagination Theater. And I used to love those shows. I'm quite sure some of the people out in the community know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I remember somewhere in time, I used to listen to those shows back then. I don't want to age myself, but I wish your power to be would look at that again, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater or the Imagination Theater. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting one there. I mean, there's a lot of demand on the time for a radio broadcast these days, but I will say that, I mean, yeah, like, what's another way? Other way it was like, Imagination Theater, Saturday Night at the Bijou, or other things like that. I grew up listening to some of those in certain ways. So it's an interesting idea. I don't know where it would fit into us, but I will say this, as much as we're radio and we're still going to keep doing radio, we do a lot of podcasts these days. And I want to say some of these do come around in those ways. So if it's available for you, I'd encourage you to look at that. But I mean, we're always looking at other, maybe, potential programming changes. So I'll certainly pass that along as well.
Yeah, because when that happens, I just kind of turn off. I do like the other shows, like the legal shows and the people who offer medical advice and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I like those. They're very informational. And I just want to hear some entertainment because
Fair
that's
enough.
my thoughts.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate the thought, and you do take feedback and criticism, critique in equal measure, or at least try to do. And so appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there.
Yeah, let you get another call in. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, appreciate it. And with that, we do have time for one more call here. We do have we do have him here. Okay, I did not mess it up. We do have a Jerry in Northwest with us. Jerry, you there?
Yes, sir. Thank
Gotcha.
you for taking my call.
Absolutely there.
Good news. Good news for Good News Friday. The butt stock extender, pistol stock extender thing, the ATF outlawed.
Oh, yes, the pistol brace, those things. Yes.
Yes. Yes. The judge in Louisiana Fifth Circuit Court ruled their law unconstitutional, basically. So if you have a pistol brace that you're using, you can keep it. You do not have to buy the $200 license and register it, according to that judge.
Because, I mean, among other things, it wasn't a law that was passed. It was a change in the way they were interpreting or putting forth policy done by the ATF. And for anyone unfamiliar with what we're talking about there, we're talking about that the ATF, as it regulates different types of firearms, there are shotguns, there are rifles, there are pistols, and there are definitions with them. If you have particularly the rifle or shotgun of a length underneath 16 inches, I do believe it is, it then technically counts as a pistol or as a short-barreled rifle. Or if you have a pistol that you then put a brace on, it then changes categories, becomes an NFA, National Firearms Act, regulated item. And there had been certain kind of leeway that had been given to these pistol braces. So firearms that were manufactured as pistols, therefore not shoulderable, legally speaking, even if logistics are a little bit different. And them saying that, well, we're not going to allow that anymore. Yeah, a federal judge looking at the Reuters article from this, the New Orleans-based Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, finding that the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and I always forget the E, explosives as well, that they finalized that rule in January without giving the public a meaningful chance to comment on it. So they may or may not be saying that this can't move forward, but that they may have to go back and redo the process is kind of my reading on it.
Yes, but for currently right now, those people that own them do not have to register them, and they do not have to pay the $200 licensing
tax stamp. Yeah,
the tax stamp. So they're good to go. So, but in the future, when it comes up, if we have a 90-day, there's a 90-day window, according to the FOPA, the 1986 law that was Firearms Owners Protection Act. We have a 90-day window in there to voice our concerns and disagree with it.
Sure.
As firearms owners and citizens. So the more you get people to disagree with what the BATFE is doing, the more chances we have of that regulation not passing. So just be aware of that, firearm owners.
Yeah, Fair enough. I mean, that's one of the other things I do keep abreast on. I do not make donations to causes, political organizations, PACs, or these type of things. But if I was going to, like some of the ones involved in that specific lawsuit by, like, say, the Firearms Policy Coalition, it would have been one of the ones I would.
Well, I am a member of that. I do make donations to them
Fair
along
enough.
with the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation.
Sure.
And there's a few others I can't remember. Gun Owners of America, but anyway, if we don't speak up, firearm owners, it's on us that we didn't speak up. And they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
One way to put it, anyway.
The baby that cries the loudest gets fed first. So.
Another slightly more disturbing way to put it, but I do appreciate the point in the call and you bringing that up. You have a good one there and a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. You have a good weekend. Good weekend there, El Paso. Be a safe one.
All right, and with that, tell you what, I think we're just going to have to go ahead and end the show there because I think we're going to be out of time even to come back and tell you what we got working on for you. So, a couple of things working on for you now that we're through this week. A couple of interviews with some of El Paso's business leaders and functionaries in a couple of different capacities. Technically both nonprofits, but the amount of things going into it are significant, including with El Paso Children's Hospital, some of the things they've been working on, new developments, and how they've overcome some of the issues that I did reporting on a few years back at this point, but also on the occasion of the first anniversary of the hiring of the president and CEO for the El Paso Chambers and the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, visiting with them both next week, and a bunch more that we're working on for you as we continue our mission to talk about the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland. So, well, we'll keep getting into it as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And, of course, coming up tomorrow on the El Paso History Radio Show, we're going to be re-airing one of our previous great episodes, that of the Spanish contributions to the cause of American independence. Yeah, we're just out of the celebration, the month of July, but of course, talking about the things that are going on and the contributions made to it and how it's still celebrated in its own way. 4th of July over in Spain. Yeah, that happens. For the things and the history behind it, we'll definitely be having that on the show for you tomorrow. So I do want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in this show here today. We'll do it again as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So until then, until next time, be sure to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening and weekend, y'all. We'll see you next week. Or the History Radio Show. Tune in.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash in the Upper Valley on Artcraft eastbound at the I-10 is causing 15-minute delays back to west side. I-10 eastbound from Vinton down to Red, 10-minute delays. Heavy congestion in the Lower Valley eastbound on Border Highway at Zaragoza, the exits block. And heads up for a stalled vehicle block of the right lane Gateway North at Pershing Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
In this week's Marketers Report, we hear about the importance of local radio from Allison Griffin, head of marketing at State Farm.
iHeart has such a broad broadcast reach that is local, and for us to be able to touch customers with a local feel but at a national scale is so efficient and important for us.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, trusted influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
You could throw your flip-flop at a bug.
Ew, a bug, get it.
But the chances of actually hitting it
Over there.
are statistically
It's still alive.
unlikely. Good thing nature's got your back. Stem bug killers combine powerful active ingredients found in plants like lemongrass and geraniol and scientifically engineer them into effective bug-fighting formulas, safe for use as directed around people, pets, and throughout the home. Stem, rooted in nature, optimized by science.
Staples has big savings on everything you need for back to school or stocking up the office. Save on signs, banners, and posters from Staples Print and Marketing Services. Save on everything you need for travel, like luggage, tech, and travel-size personal items. Plus, save on all your school essentials, from notebooks to markers. Now at Staples, you can save even more with $25 back in rewards on your in-store purchase of $75 or more. Get everything for the office and the classroom for less at Staples. Ends 8/5. Redeemable in-store only. Rewards members only.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with a stable security system from Mazer Security Alarms. Your trusted El Paso security expert since 1982. You can get the best. Systems start at under $35 per month with upfront purchase to lease options and $0 down payment packages available. Get the peace of mind you deserve with Mazer Security Alarms. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.